I'm Avery Wilson, 32, and 10 years ago, I built a healthcare tech company from nothing but a laptop and determination. Last month, it was valued at $200 million. Yesterday, my parents transferred ownership to my sister Madison. She's CEO now, they said, looking straight into my eyes. You were just the builder. I didn't argue or scream. I simply made one phone call. The color drained from their faces when they realized what I'd done. If you've ever had family betray your trust, drop a comment saying where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button while I tell you what happened. Technology was my sanctuary since I was 8 years old. While other kids played outside, I disassembled computers, fascinated by how each component functioned together. My sister Madison, 3 years older, pursued popularity instead: cheerleading, student government, and social climbing. Our parents, Jonathan and Elaine Wilson, successful business owners themselves, clearly admired Madison's charisma and people skills over my technical interests. Computers are just tools, Avery, my father would say. It's the people who use them that matter. This sentiment echoed throughout my childhood, creating an unspoken hierarchy. Madison's social abilities above my technical aptitude. During high school, I coded my first application, a simple program that helped organize medication schedules. My grandmother Sarah had been struggling with multiple prescriptions after her heart surgery, and I wanted to help. When I showed my creation to my parents, my father glanced at it briefly before asking Madison about her student council campaign. That night, however, Grandma Sarah called me, her voice filled with joy. "This little program of yours just saved me from taking the wrong pills at dinner. You might have saved my life, sweetheart." That moment planted a seed that would eventually grow into MediSync Solutions. In college, I pursued computer science despite my parents suggesting I follow Madison into business school. "Technology is just a service industry," my mother explained over dinner during my sophomore year. "Madison will learn how to run companies while you'll learn how to work for them." I bit my tongue and continued on my path. Madison graduated with her MBA and immediately secured a corporate position through our parents' connections. Meanwhile, I worked through graduate school, focusing on healthcare information systems. My thesis project expanded on that first medication app, incorporating predictive analytics to flag potential drug interactions before they occurred. My advisor suggested I commercialize it, but I wasn't ready. The turning point came when Grandma Sarah passed away. At her funeral, I learned she'd experienced a preventable medication interaction at her nursing home. The existing systems had failed. That night in my apartment, surrounded by grief and determination, I sketched the blueprint for what would become MediSync Solutions, a comprehensive healthcare technology platform that would bridge the dangerous gaps in patient care. For the next 8 months, I lived on ramen noodles and caffeine, coding in my garage apartment. My savings dwindled as I built prototypes and conducted user research at local clinics. When I approached my parents for a small investment, they declined. "It's a saturated market," my father explained. "Besides, healthcare institutions are slow to adopt new technology. Be realistic, Avery." Madison, now thriving in her corporate role, suggested I apply for an entry-level position at her company instead. I maxed out 3 credit cards and took out a personal loan instead. The risk was enormous, but my conviction was stronger. After 12 failed pitches to potential investors, I finally connected with Dr. James Chen, a physician frustrated with existing systems at his multi-specialty practice. He agreed to implement my prototype as a pilot program. 3 months later, Dr. Chen's practice reported a 40% reduction in prescription errors and a 25% improvement in patient adherence to medication schedules. Word spread throughout the medical community. Suddenly, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. When MediSync Solutions secured its first $1 million investment round, my parents' attitude shifted noticeably. My father called to congratulate me, asking detailed questions about valuation and equity structure. My mother suggested a family dinner to celebrate properly. Madison texted that she always knew I had it in me, despite never having expressed such confidence before. At that dinner, watching my family suddenly interested in my work, I felt a complex mixture of validation and wariness. My parents proposed a toast to Avery, who has finally found her path. The emphasis on finally stung, but I smiled and raised my glass. What I didn't mention was that Medisync had just signed contracts with 3 major hospital systems, putting us on track to triple our valuation within the year. Maybe you could bring Madison on as a consultant, my mother suggested casually. She's quite unhappy at her current position and with her business expertise. I deflected politely, but the seed of what would become my undoing had already been planted. The next 3 years passed in a whirlwind of growth. Medisync Solutions expanded from my garage workspace to a modest office suite, then to an entire floor in a downtown tech hub. Our team grew from just me to 5 employees, then 20, then 70. Each person I hired brought specialized expertise. Developers who understood healthcare complexities, medical professionals who could translate clinical needs into technical requirements, security experts who ensured patient data remained protected. Our core product evolved from medication management into a comprehensive platform connecting every aspect of patient care. Hospitals using our system reported remarkable improvements: reduced readmission rates, fewer medical errors, better patient outcomes, and significant cost savings. With each success story, our reputation solidified. Behind this growth was my relentless work ethic. 16-hour days became my norm. I missed holidays, birthdays, and family gatherings. My apartment remained mostly unfurnished because I spent so little time there. A brief relationship ended when my partner rightfully pointed out that Medisync received more attention than he did. My health suffered. Weight loss, tension headaches, and insomnia became constant companions. "You should take better care of yourself," my concerned employees would say. I'd smile and promise to try, but the company's needs always came first. Building something revolutionary required sacrifice. As Medisync's valuation climbed past $50 million, Madison's interest in my work intensified dramatically. She began appearing at industry events where Medisync was featured, introducing herself as Avery's sister, with a familiarity that suggested deeper involvement than reality. "Your sister is quite knowledgeable about your company," remarked an investor after one such event. "She pays attention," I replied diplomatically, though Madison had never shown interest in the technical details of my work. Family dinners now centered around Medisync's progress, with Madison asking surprisingly specific questions about our business model, client contracts, and board structure. My parents beamed with pride during these conversations, though I couldn't help noticing how they positioned Madison's input as particularly valuable. "Madison's corporate experience gives her such insight," my mother would comment after my sister offered basic business suggestions I'd implemented months earlier. The pressure mounted subtly but persistently. "Medisync could benefit from Madison's business development expertise," my father suggested during a weekend visit to my office. "She's considering a career change, and what better place than a family company?" "It's not exactly a family company," I corrected gently. "I built it from scratch." "Of course you did, honey," my mother soothed. "But family supports family. Madison is at a crossroads professionally, and you're soaring. Sharing your success seems natural." Exhausted from another 80-hour work week and seeking family harmony, I reluctantly created a Director of Business Development position for Madison. The role was legitimate. We needed someone to cultivate client relationships while I focused on product development and overall strategy. Despite reservations from my executive team, I convinced myself this arrangement could work. Madison arrived at Medisync with uncharacteristic humility, expressing eagerness to learn from the ground up. I spent countless hours training her, explaining our technology's nuances, introducing her to key clients, and including her in strategic meetings. She absorbed everything with impressive speed, though her questions often focused more on company, structure, and financial matters than on our healthcare mission. "You're the visionary, Avery," she would say, "but someone needs to translate your vision into sustainable business practices." This framing, me as idealistic dreamer, her as practical business mind, began permeating company culture. At family gatherings, I noticed a subtle shift in narratives. Madison described client acquisitions as collaborative victories, using we when relating successes I'd personally secured. My parents accepted and amplified this version of events, referring to MediSync as the girls' company, despite my sole founding role. "You two balance each other perfectly," my father declared at Thanksgiving dinner. "Avery creates, Madison executes." The oversimplification rankled, but confronting it seemed petty amid turkey and gratitude. As MediSync approached its 5th anniversary, industry recognition mounted. We received innovation awards, glowing press coverage, and acquisition offers. I consistently declined. My vision remained focused on independence and continued growth. Madison, however, began suggesting we explore strategic partnership opportunities with increasing frequency. "Building something is admirable," she remarked during a strategy session, "but knowing when to leverage it is wisdom." The comment earned approving nods from several board members, though my most loyal employees exchanged concerned glances. By year's end, MediSync's valuation reached $100 million, with projections to double within 18 months. What should have been my proudest achievement instead filled me with growing unease as I sensed control slipping through my fingers like sand. The first concrete warning came from Raj, my chief technology officer and earliest hire. After a board meeting where Madison had questioned my technology roadmap, he lingered in my office, uncharacteristically hesitant. "Something's happening that you should know about," he finally said. "Madison has been meeting individually with board members. Not casual lunches, private strategy discussions she's specifically asked them not to mention to you." I dismissed his concerns initially. "She's building relationships. That's literally her job." Raj's expression remained troubled. "These aren't relationship-building sessions, Avery. They're focused on company governance and leadership structure." That conversation planted a seed of doubt I couldn't ignore. Over the following weeks, I noticed subtle changes in board members' behavior, slightly reduced transparency, casual mentions of conversations with Madison I hadn't been privy to, questions about succession planning that seemed premature for our growth stage. During presentations, Madison developed a habit of gently undercutting my technical points with business-focused rebuttals. "While Avery's innovation pipeline is ambitious," she would interject, "we need to balance technical advancement with market readiness." These comments, delivered with practiced concern, positioned her as the pragmatic counterweight to my supposedly ungrounded technical vision. In marketing materials, Madison gradually increased her visibility. Company achievements previously attributed to founder Avery Wilson's vision became the leadership team's strategic direction. When I questioned this shift, our marketing director looked uncomfortable. "Madison approved these changes personally. I assumed you were consulted." Most disturbingly, clients began mentioning conversations with Madison that contradicted our established strategy. "Your sister mentioned you're considering acquisition offers," reported Dr. Simmons, a key hospital administrator. "That conflicts with what you told us about long-term independent growth." When confronted privately, Madison expressed practiced surprise. "I would never undermine your vision, Avery." Perhaps they misunderstood general market discussions as specific company plans. Her explanation seemed plausible, yet something felt off. My parents, meanwhile, increased their presence in company affairs despite holding no official positions. My father began dropping by the office unannounced, touring the facilities with Madison while I was occupied in meetings. My mother initiated lunch invitations with board members, describing these as getting to know the MediSync family better. During one such visit, I overheard my father telling our lead developer, "The girls have built something remarkable together. Such different skills, but equally important." The revision of history, positioning Madison as co-builder rather than late addition, left me speechless. Family dinners became strategy sessions, with my parents increasingly referring to MediSync as our company and the family business. When I gently corrected this characterization, reminding them of my years of solitary work before Madison's involvement, my mother patted my hand condescendingly. "No one succeeds alone, dear. Your father and I provided your education and genetics. For that brain of yours, Madison brings crucial business perspective. It's a family achievement. Their constant presence coincided with increasing private meetings with Madison from which I was conspicuously absent. "Just catching up with your sister," my mother would explain when I inquired. "Nothing you'd find interesting, just family matters." Lisa, my executive assistant who scheduled my calendar with military precision, approached me one afternoon with unusual directness. "Madison has booked the conference room for a meeting with your parents and Stanley Weathers next Tuesday." Weathers was our corporate attorney. "I wasn't instructed to include you in the invitation." Despite mounting evidence of problematic behavior, I hesitated to confront the situation directly. Madison was my sister. My parents were just showing interest in my success. Perhaps I was overreacting, letting isolation and exhaustion fuel paranoia. Then came the client dinner that couldn't be rationalized away. Emma Prescott, CEO of our largest hospital client, mentioned casually, "Your co-founder has quite different views on MediSync's future." When I explained Madison wasn't a co-founder, Emma looked genuinely confused. That's not how she introduced herself at the Healthcare Executive Summit last month. She presented a compelling vision for MediSync's next phase as co-founder and business architect. Her presentation materials clearly listed both of you as founders, with you focusing on technical aspects while she directed overall business strategy. That night, I finally confronted Madison in my office, presenting evidence of her systematic misrepresentation. Rather than denying it, she sighed as though I were being unreasonable. "Perception matters in business, Avery. Clients and investors respond better to balanced leadership than technical founder stories. I'm helping elevate our company narrative. By lying about your role and undermining mine? By complimenting your limitations," she countered smoothly. "You're brilliant with technology, but struggle with strategic vision. I'm positioning us both advantageously." The conversation escalated until Madison's composure cracked. "You've always been Mom and Dad's perfect little genius. For once, I found a way to be equally valuable, and you can't stand sharing the spotlight." This outburst revealed the core of her resentment, a sibling rivalry I'd never fully recognized. Before I could process this revelation, Madison stormed out. 2 hours later, my parents called, concerned about my verbal attack on my sister. "Madison is trying to help you," my father insisted. "Your technical focus has limitations you don't recognize. Be grateful for her business acumen." That night, unable to sleep, I reviewed company documents and discovered Madison had been systematically positioning herself as equal partner in company leadership across marketing materials, press releases, and investor communications, all while I focused on product development and client service. The betrayal was systematic, deliberate, and far more advanced than I'd realized. 3 weeks after my confrontation with Madison, my parents invited us both to dinner at their home. A family gathering to realign expectations, my father called it. The phrasing should have warned me, but I arrived hopeful for resolution. The dining room was set with formal precision. My mother's antique china, crystal glasses, and polished silver flatware reserved for significant occasions. Madison arrived fashionably late, dressed in business formal despite the family setting. My parents welcomed her with embraces warmer than those they'd offered me. Through appetizers, conversation remained superficially pleasant, focused on neutral topics. As my mother served the main course, prime rib, my father's favorite, his demeanor shifted perceptibly. "Avery, your mother and I have been discussing MediSync's future extensively," he began, setting down his fork with deliberate care. "We've consulted with financial advisors, industry experts, and legal counsel about optimal leadership structures for the company's next growth phase." The clinical phrasing chilled me. Consulted about my company's leadership without involving me? "That's precisely the problematic perspective we need to address," my mother interjected. "This persistent, my company framing undermines collaborative leadership potential." Madison remained uncharacteristically silent, studying her plate with intense focus. "We've drafted a restructuring plan," my father continued, retrieving documents from a portfolio beside his chair. "These outline necessary governance changes to maximize MediSync's value and sustainability." The papers he slid across the table detailed complete leadership reorganization. Madison would assume CEO position, with me transitioning to Chief Technology Officer. The justification cited balancing technical innovation with strategic market expansion. This is absurd, I said, scanning pages of corporate legalese. I founded Medisync. I hold majority shares. This restructuring can't happen without my approval. My father's expression tightened. Actually, that's not accurate. Your initial funding round included preferred shares with special voting rights, held by family investment vehicles. Combined with Madison's equity from her executive position, controlling interest now resides with Wilson family entities, separate from your personal holdings. The revelation struck like physical impact. During early financing rounds, desperate for capital, I'd accepted my parents' support through a family investment entity they controlled. The complex share structure, detailed in documents I'd reviewed, while exhausted from 100-hour workweeks, contained governance provisions I hadn't fully comprehended. You deliberately misled me. My voice sounded distant, even to my own ears. We protected company interests, my mother corrected. Your technical brilliance built Medisync's foundation, but sustainable growth requires different leadership skills, Madison finally spoke. This isn't personal, Avery. It's sound business strategy. You'll retain CTO position with appropriate compensation and recognition. Your technical contributions remain valued. My contributions? I built everything Medisync is today. You built the product, my father clarified with devastating finality. Madison will build the company. You were just the builder, Avery. A technically gifted one, certainly, but builders execute. They don't lead. The dismissal of 10 years' work, endless nights, sacrificed relationships, health compromised through relentless effort, reduced to just the builder, burned through shock into crystalline clarity. These changes take effect immediately, my mother added, as though announcing dinner was served. The board votes tomorrow to formalize leadership transition. We wanted you to hear from family first. Madison reached across the table, her expression practiced compassion. This is best for Medisync, Avery. You can focus on technology without business administration distractions. We'll achieve more together this way. The gaslight tactics were transparent now, reframing complete removal from leadership as beneficial to me, positioning theft as collaboration, casting control as liberation. I need time to process this, I said, standing abruptly. The calculated betrayal required careful response, not emotional reaction. My father nodded as though I'd made a reasonable request rather than avoiding imminent breakdown. Take tonight. The board meeting is scheduled for 2 tomorrow afternoon. Your presence would demonstrate professional maturity. Walking to my car, mind racing through implications and options, I heard Madison call my name. She hurried down the driveway. Expression concerned. I know this feels sudden, she offered, but I've developed comprehensive growth strategies that wouldn't be possible under previous leadership constraints. This truly optimizes everyone's strengths. Everyone except mine, I replied quietly. Leadership was never my constraint. It was your ambition. That's unnecessarily harsh, Madison frowned. I'm trying to preserve our relationship despite necessary business changes. Necessary? You manipulated our parents, misrepresented yourself to clients, and orchestrated corporate takeover of a company you didn't build. What part of that was necessary? Your perspective is understandably emotional right now, she replied with practiced patience. Once the transition settles, you'll recognize the benefits of focusing exclusively on technological innovation without administrative burdens. Her perfectly constructed rationalization completed my understanding. This wasn't impulsive opportunism, it was calculated strategy executed over months. My sister had meticulously engineered my removal while positioning herself as savior. I'll see you at the board meeting, I said simply, unwilling to reveal my thoughts. Driving home through darkened streets, my initial shock crystallized into absolute clarity. Everything I'd built stood on the edge of theft through technical legality. By morning, I needed a counter-strategy equal to the betrayal's magnitude. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Everything I'd sacrificed for, every milestone achieved through my innovation and persistence, was being legally stolen by my own family. The betrayal's completeness left me alternating between crushing despair and incandescent rage. At 3 a.m, pacing my sparsely furnished apartment, I called the one person who might understand. Dr. Chen had been my first client and remained a trusted advisor despite his retirement from medical practice. "They're taking Medisync," I explained, voice breaking. "My own family engineered a corporate takeover." His response surprised me. "What exactly did they take, Avery?" "The company, leadership, everything. Did they take your mind, your innovation capabilities, the respect you've earned throughout the medical technology sector?" His questions weren't dismissive but purposeful. "Define precisely what's been taken and what remains. Start there." That perspective shift began my recovery from emotional devastation to strategic thinking. I opened my laptop and began documenting exactly what Madison and my parents now controlled versus what remained mine alone. By sunrise, clarity emerged through exhaustion. They controlled corporate governance and public-facing leadership, yes. The Medisync brand, official company narrative, and formal decision-making authority were legally theirs through share manipulation. But crucial assets remained outside their reach. First was intellectual property. While core technology patents were registered to Medisync corporate entities, our newest innovations, the breakthrough predictive analytics engine powering our most advanced features, existed only on development servers I personally controlled. This next-generation technology, representing 18 months of intensive work, remained unpatented and technically unowned by Medisync proper. Second were client relationships. Our largest hospital systems and healthcare networks had signed contracts based on personal trust, established through years of my direct engagement. These agreements included key person clauses requiring notification if I left my leadership position. Third was team loyalty. Medisync's core development team, brilliant engineers who'd rejected lucrative offers from tech giants to work on life-saving healthcare innovations, had joined specifically to work with me. Their employment contracts included generous equity, provisions that would vest immediately under change of control provisions. At 7 that morning, I received my first text from a concerned employee. Raj, my CTO, wrote simply, "Board meeting notification just arrived. Leadership restructuring. Agenda. What's happening?" Rather than responding immediately, I made 3 phone calls. First to Eliza Morales, our patent attorney, requesting urgent review of intellectual property ownership structures. Second to Stefan Green, an employment lawyer specializing in technology companies, discussing options for key employees under hostile leadership changes. Third to Catherine Liu, a venture capitalist who had repeatedly expressed interest in backing any project I led. By 9, my apartment had transformed into impromptu command center. Raj arrived first, followed by 5 core team members, all voluntarily risking professional consequences by missing work without explanation. Their immediate solidarity without full context humbled me. "Madison is being installed as CEO today," I explained, revealing the previous night's ambush. "My parents engineered a share structure that gives them controlling interest." Rather than the outrage I expected, Raj asked the essential question. "What's our countermove?" "Our countermove. Not my problem. Our response." That collective ownership of the crisis became my first real advantage. We established secure communication channels and divided responsibilities. 2 senior developers began documenting the development process for our unpublished analytics engine, establishing clear creation timelines. Our security architect reviewed access protocols to ensure development servers remained protected. Our .D client relations director quietly contacted key accounts to schedule routine update meetings following the board session. At 11, Eliza called with crucial confirmation. The predictive analytics engine development occurred outside corporate structure, your weekend and evening work using private development environments. While employed by Medisync, this particular innovation exists in legal gray area regarding ownership. Her careful phrasing conveyed the leverage without explicitly advocating improper action. By noon, Catherine confirmed what I'd hoped. If you have the core team and next-generation technology, we can secure $20 million in funding. Within 48 hours, $35 million if you have client commitments. As board meeting time approached, I faced the crucial decision: attend as expected or implement counteraction from absence. The team unanimously supported the latter. My presence would create illusion of consent, while my absence would immediately signal rejection of the restructuring. They expect emotional reaction, Raj noted. Attendance under protest, perhaps resignation speech. They don't expect calculated response. Stefan arrived with employment counsel for team members, reviewing options without explicitly recommending mass resignation. Ask questions about the implications of leadership changes, he advised. Document responses carefully. At 1:30, 30 minutes before the scheduled board meeting, I sent my parents and Madison a brief message. Unable to attend today. Taking personal time to consider options. The deliberately vague wording would suggest emotional withdrawal, rather than strategic preparation. Madison's immediate response proved their confidence. Understandable. Take necessary space. We'll proceed with vote and formalize transition. Look forward to discussing your technology role tomorrow. Their certainty that I'd ultimately accept subordinate position revealed fundamental misunderstanding of both my character and my options. They viewed my technical focus as limitation rather than choice, interpreting dedication to innovation as business naivety. That misconception became their critical vulnerability. While the board meeting proceeded at MediSync headquarters, our impromptu team finalized counteraction strategy in my living room. The plan balanced legal protection with maximum leverage, careful to avoid improper actions while establishing unmistakable consequences for the hostile takeover. At 3:15, my phone lit with expected message from Madison. Transition approved. Unanimously. I'm now CEO effective immediately. Let's meet tomorrow to discuss your continuing role. Family dinner Friday to realign expectations. The casual presumption that I'd simply accept their dictates crystallized my resolve. It was time for the single phone call that would change everything. At precisely 4 o'clock, surrounded by my core team, I made the call that would irrevocably alter MediSync's trajectory. Eliza Morales answered on the first ring. I've made my decision, I stated calmly. Please file provisional patent application for the predictive analytics engine under my personal ownership, not MediSync corporate entity. Initiate process immediately. Though simple in execution, this action's implications were seismic. The next-generation technology that represented MediSync's competitive advantage and future growth potential would officially belong to me personally, not the company my family now controlled. Simultaneously, Raj activated our second countermeasure, an email to MediSync's 15 largest clients, sent from my personal account rather than company channels. As MediSync's founder, I'm writing to inform you of significant leadership changes implemented today without my support or involvement. Madison Wilson has been installed as CEO while I've been relegated to technical role with limited authority. Under our agreement's key person provisions, this constitutes material change requiring formal notification. I welcome direct conversation about continuity concerns and future technology development direction. The carefully worded message satisfied contractual obligations without explicitly encouraging client departure. Yet its implications were unmistakable. The person they'd trusted with critical healthcare systems had been summarily removed. Our third action targeted the foundation of MediSync's technical functionality. Core team members initiated controlled access limitation to development servers containing proprietary code documentation. This wasn't malicious lockout. Current production systems remained fully operational, but selective protection of intellectual assets under disputed ownership. 23 minutes after these coordinated actions, my phone rang. Madison's name flashed on screen. What have you done? Her voice trembled with unusual emotion. Clients are calling about leadership changes. Development team members aren't responding to directives. And legal department reports unauthorized patent filing. This is corporate sabotage. No, I corrected calmly. This is consequence. You orchestrated hostile takeover of a company you didn't build. I'm protecting innovations you didn't create. The board will terminate you immediately for this. They can certainly try, but terminating the person who controls next-generation technology and maintains primary client relationships seems counterproductive to shareholder value. Brief silence followed as implications registered. Mom and Dad are livid, she finally said. Dad's face went completely white when legal called about the patent filing. I imagine so. They believed they controlled everything valuable because they controlled corporate governance. They failed to recognize what actually makes Medisync valuable. The calculated calm of my response clearly unsettled her. She'd expected emotional outburst or desperate negotiation, not strategic counteraction. We need to discuss resolution, she conceded, voice lowered. I agree, but not with you alone. The entire board needs to understand what's happened and what options remain. An emergency board meeting was scheduled for 7 that evening. I arrived with Raj and Stefan, my technical and legal flanking support. The boardroom atmosphere vibrated with tension. My parents sat rigid beside Madison, whose usual poise had visibly fractured. Board members exchanged uncomfortable glances, clearly blindsided by the day's rapid deterioration. This behavior is unconscionable, my father began immediately. Using company technology as personal leverage violates every principle of corporate governance. Interesting perspective, I replied evenly. Perhaps we should discuss the ethics of engineering shareholder manipulation to seize control from a company's founder, or misrepresenting leadership roles to clients, or conducting secret board influence campaigns while presenting facade of family support. Madison attempted damage control. These provocative accusations distract from immediate issue. Development access restrictions are affecting client service capabilities. No current systems are compromised, Raj interjected, his technical authority unchallenged even in this charged environment. Production environments remain fully operational. Only unreleased development assets have protected access. The board chairman, visibly uncomfortable, sought clarification. What exactly is the dispute regarding intellectual property ownership? Stefan provided precise legal assessment. The predictive analytics engine representing Medisync's next development phase was created substantially outside normal business operations, often on weekends and evenings using private development environments. Under intellectual property law, ownership status is legitimately ambiguous. This feels like extortion, my mother declared, emotion overriding caution. No, I corrected calmly. This is negotiation after betrayal. You orchestrated leadership, coup predicated on controlling everything valuable. I'm demonstrating that corporate governance alone doesn't secure innovation capability or client trust. Throughout this exchange, several board members' expressions shifted from disapproval to recalculation. The private equity representative particularly seemed to reassess the situation's implications for company valuation. Medisync's market position relies on continuous innovation advantage, he noted. If next-generation technology ownership is disputed and key client relationships are personal rather than institutional, company value is substantially compromised under current circumstances. That objective assessment from a financial perspective rather than family member created pivotal shift in room dynamics. Suddenly, the situation transformed from family drama into serious valuation risk. My father attempted regaining control. What exactly are you demanding, Avery? I'm not demanding anything, I replied with genuine calm that seemed to unsettle him more than anger would have. I'm informing the board of reality they failed to consider before today's ill-conceived leadership change. The reality was now inescapable. Their corporate takeover had secured governance authority over a suddenly hollowed entity. Without next generation technology, without assured client continuity, without core development team loyalty, Medisync's $200 million valuation could collapse overnight. We should discuss options privately, Madison suggested, clearly seeking to remove negotiation from board scrutiny. Transparency seems appropriate now, I countered. The board deserves complete understanding of the situation they've endorsed. Over the next 2 hours, two potential resolutions emerged. First was litigation. Lengthy, costly, public, and devastating to company value, regardless of outcome. Second was negotiated restructuring that acknowledged actual value drivers rather than governance technicalities. By midnight, provisional agreement had formed around the second option. I would return as CEO with expanded board independence requirements. Madison would retain meaningful executive role focused on business development, her actual strength without governance authority over technology development. My parents would transition from direct board involvement to advisory committee status. As meeting adjourned, my father approached me privately. His typically commanding presence seemed diminished, face still ashen from the day's reversal. "You outmaneuvered us," he acknowledged quietly. "I didn't think you had this kind of strategic thinking in you." The backhanded compliment revealed how fundamentally they'd misunderstood me all along. They'd equated technical focus with business naivety, specialized expertise with leadership limitation. They'd failed to recognize that building complex systems from nothing requires precisely the strategic thinking they believed I lacked. "I learned long ago to prepare for challenges systematically," I replied, "including family betrayal." The slight flinch confirmed the words had landed as intended. Without further exchange, he joined my mother and sister waiting near elevators. Their huddled conference, heads bent together in private discussion, looked remarkably diminished compared to yesterday's confident certainty. As they departed, Catherine Liu texted confirmation. "Funding package ready if needed." Impressed with strategic response, position significantly strengthened regardless of outcome. That validation from respected venture capitalist confirmed what my parents had failed to recognize. In technology leadership, vision plus execution creates fundamental value that governance manipulation cannot secure. By attempting to separate the builder from her creation, they'd revealed their fundamental misunderstanding of where value truly resided. The most remarkable revelation wasn't their betrayal but my discovery of capabilities I hadn't recognized in myself. Through crisis response, strategic thinking under extreme pressure, and maintaining ethical boundaries despite justifiable anger, I demonstrated leadership transcending technical expertise. I wasn't just the builder, after all. I was the architect, the visionary, and when necessary, the strategist who protected what I'd built from those who sought to claim it without earning it. The weeks following that pivotal board meeting brought fundamental transformation. Not just for Medisync's corporate structure, but for my understanding of family dynamics, business leadership, and personal resilience. While the immediate crisis, resolved through carefully negotiated settlement, the deeper work of rebuilding trust and redefined relationships had just begun. The revised corporate agreement formalized my return as CEO with expanded board independence protections. Madison retained executive role as Chief Business Development Officer, a position leveraging her genuine strengths without governance authority over technology direction. My parents transitioned to non-voting advisory status, their influence appropriately constrained. More significant than these structural changes was the shift in company culture. With leadership challenge resolved decisively, we implemented transparency initiatives ensuring all stakeholders understood Medisync's mission beyond financial metrics. Weekly all-hands meetings addressed questions directly, replacing corridor whispers with open dialogue. "Our purpose remains transforming healthcare through technology," I explained during our first post-crisis company gathering. Recent governance challenges tested, but ultimately strengthened our commitment to that mission. That recommitment resonated powerfully with our team. Rather than experiencing exodus following leadership turmoil, we saw renewed dedication. Engineers who had polished resumes during uncertainty instead proposed ambitious new projects. Client-facing teams reported strengthened relationships after transparent communications about leadership stability. Dr. Patel, medical director for our largest hospital system client, expressed this sentiment directly during our quarterly review. "We partnered with Medisync because we trusted your vision and integrity. Recent events confirmed both remain intact despite significant pressure." That resilience matters more than organizational charts. His perspective reflected broader market response. Rather than damaging company reputation, My willingness to defend innovation integrity against governance manipulation actually enhanced our standing among healthcare providers who valued principled leadership. The most complex evolution occurred within family relationships. For 2 weeks following the confrontation, communication ceased entirely. When finally reinitiated, interactions maintained rigid formality, dictated by settlement agreement rather than familial warmth. The first attempt at personal reconciliation came through my grandmother's sister, Aunt Rebecca, who invited me to lunch without revealing other attendees. Arriving at the restaurant, I found my mother waiting alone, expression uncharacteristically uncertain. "Your father couldn't bring himself to come," she explained immediately. "His pride remains severely wounded." "Pride shouldn't supersede integrity," I replied, maintaining boundaries while accepting conversation opening. Our exchange progressed cautiously through superficial topics before addressing underlying breach. "We genuinely believed the restructuring served Medisinc's interests," she eventually claimed. "Your technical brilliance with Madison's business acumen seemed complementary leadership model. That justification might be credible if you'd proposed partnership rather than orchestrating hostile removal," I countered. The method revealed true motivation better than post-fact rationalization. My mother's gaze dropped momentarily. "Perhaps some resentment influenced decisions," she conceded, reluctantly. "Your success challenged family narratives about capability distribution between you and Madison." This partial acknowledgement marked minimal progress, yet established foundation for potential rebuild. "Trust requires consistent actions beyond convenient words," I noted. "Restructured relationship needs demonstrated respect for boundaries." Madison's approach differed markedly. Rather than seeking reconciliation, she immersed herself in redefined role with surprising dedication. Her business development initiatives yielded legitimate value once divorced from governance ambitions. During executive meetings, her contributions remained substantive while respecting clear domain boundaries. 3 months after the confrontation, she requested private conversation following leadership team session. "I won't apologize for pursuing opportunity," she stated directly. "But methods crossed appropriate lines. That distinction matters for working relationship viability." This characteristically strategic framing, acknowledging process failure, while maintaining ambition legitimacy, reflected genuine self-awareness within her perspective limitations. It wasn't friendship restoration, but established functional professional protocol. My father maintained longest estrangement. Only after 6 months did he request meeting through formal channels. We met at neutral location, a downtown coffee shop far from both office and family spaces. "The company's performance under your restored leadership has been adequate," he began awkwardly, corporate assessment substituting for personal connection. "Medisinc's mission transcends quarterly metrics," I replied. "Healthcare transformation requires longer measurement horizons." Our conversation progressed through similar exchanges, his business framing meeting my mission focus, until he finally approached actual reconciliation territory. "I misunderstood your capabilities," he acknowledged with visible difficulty. "Technical expertise led me to underestimate strategic capacity. That assessment error had significant consequences." This clinical admission constituted substantial concession within his worldview. Not emotional apology, but cognitive reassessment of previously held position. Within those constraints, it represented meaningful shift. While family relationships established new cautious equilibrium, I found genuine connection through unexpected community. Catherine Liu introduced me to informal network of technology founders who had experienced similar challenges. Visionaries whose creations attracted control attempts from those who recognized value, but couldn't create it themselves. Monthly dinners with this group provided perspective impossible within family dynamics. Their shared experiences normalized my challenges while offering wisdom from diverse resolution paths. Some had fought legally, others had started anew, still others had negotiated settlements similar to mine. All had emerged stronger through defending what they'd built. "The attempt to take your creation becomes transformative threshold," explained Sophia, who had defended her financial technology platform against similar governance manipulation. Before that moment, you're primarily creator. After successfully protecting your vision, you become recognized leader in fullest sense. This framework helped integrate recent experiences into coherent personal narrative. The painful betrayal, while never forgotten, transformed from emotional wound into developmental milestone, the challenge that revealed capabilities I hadn't recognized in myself. Beyond professional resilience, personal growth emerged through therapy exploration. Weekly sessions with Dr. Marshall provided space to process family dynamic patterns, extending far beyond recent conflict. The leadership challenge exposed existing relational structures rather than creating them, she observed during one particularly insightful session. Your parents' conditional valuation of technical versus social capabilities predated company dynamics. Corporate governance became expression of long-established family governance patterns. This perspective helped separate business resolution from deeper personal healing work, while professional boundaries could be negotiated through structural agreements. Emotional boundaries required internal development, independent of others' acknowledgement. 18 months after the confrontation, MediSync's valuation exceeded $300 million. Our healthcare impact metrics showed over 2 million patients receiving improved care through our systems. These achievements reflected not just technology innovations, but leadership philosophy prioritizing sustainable impact over extraction. The fundamental lesson emerged with crystalline clarity. Value creation transcends control mechanisms. Those who build transformative solutions understand systems at levels governance manipulators cannot access. The attempt to separate builder from creation through technical maneuvering ultimately reveals profound misunderstanding of where true value resides. This awareness now guides both personal and professional choices. Family relationships continue through calibrated engagement rather than unconditional trust. Business governance incorporates structural protections against similar vulnerability. Most importantly, innovation focus remains centered on healthcare impact rather than recognition metrics. The builder, it turns out, carries essential understanding that cannot be transferred through ownership documents or governance votes. The systems we create reflect thinking patterns that governance alone cannot replicate. Those who recognize only final product while dismissing creation process fundamentally misunderstand value generation itself. Have you ever had someone try to take credit for your hard work or claim ownership of something you built? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Was there a moment when you had to stand up for yourself like I did? If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to hear more about navigating challenging family dynamics and professional betrayals. Thank you for listening to my journey from betrayal to reclaiming what was rightfully mine. Remember, true builders carry their greatest assets within themselves. No one can take that away.